Hi, guys, and welcome to Public History with Justin, Jake, and Molly. I am here with my two beautiful, talented, intelligent co-hosts, Jake Wynn and Justin the Hoff, Voithofer.
Perfect. Nailed it.
Welcome, you guys. Are you guys excited to talk about a very, very interesting topic today?
Talk about the most historically accurate movie of all time? Yes.
That's correct. We are a public history podcast. So we are talking about the most historically accurate movie ever done. And what movie is that, Jake?
This would be a movie called The Patriot.
That's correct. Beautiful, starring Mel Gibson, one of the finest actors of our generation.
Of some generation.
Of a generation. Before we jump into our synopsis of this wonderful movie, we wanted to remind you guys to subscribe and write a review. We'd love to hear you. Jake, I think we got our first Apple review.
We did. Yeah, thank you so much for the review. And hope to get some more that we can share here on the pod.
And do we have an email for the folks to write in and say, hey, loved that show or talk about this?
We don't.
Hey.
But maybe we will in the future.
You guys, thank you. Next episode, we might have an email.
We're building this ship while we're, sailing off into the ocean, We're just
That's correct.
One plank at a time.
So we decided to talk about The Patriot because we were talking about, I believe this idea spurred from talking about USA 250. And then we started talking about some films of the time or about the time. And Justin and I were absolutely shocked to learn that Jake had never seen The Patriot.
It is true. It is true. I will freely admit I'm only a recent convert to the 18th century. This is a diehard 19th century fella you guys are talking to. But I'm coming around despite this film.
Oh man, I was gonna say because you of the what you've learned from this picture, I guess is what you're saying. I'm just surprised, Jake. You've made it. I mean, it came out in 2000. I'm surprised you've made it You made it in the past tense, 26 years of your life before seeing this cinematic darling. So,
cinematic darling is perfect.
Yeah.
Justin, when did you first see the movie?
I remember watching this movie as a kid, and I remember the specific scene that is imprinted in my mind. I don't know why. It's when Tarleton comes up, and spoiler alert, kills like all of the American wounded people on the deck of the house, and like I don't know, like 12-year-old me thought that was like the most terrifying thing of all time. So I was scared to watch the rest of this movie for so long because of that scene. Don't know when. Don't know. It was on TV, so I didn't see it in theaters. But yeah, that scene in particular, I don't know why. I remember like watching downstairs with my parents and like having an impression of like, whoa, that's different. Once again, cinematic darling, cinematic masterpiece. Yeah.
I remember seeing it premiered in the, I believe, summer of 2000. And I saw it in the movie theater with my best friend and her dad. And first of all, big crush on, who do you think?
If Jason Isaacs.
She loves the villain.
I really liked the villain. Big crush on Mel Gibson at the time. Because if you remember another actual cinematic darling, Braveheart, which premiered in 1995.
Some may say the second most historically accurate movie of all time.
I'm dating myself, correct.
And another film I haven't seen.
Are you kidding
me? Oh my gosh.
That's next. I'm sorry. What's happening?
We're just going to go with the entire Mel Gibson like IMDb page. We're just going to turn this into a Mel Gibson fan club podcast.
Oh gosh. Don't say that.
Nope.
Nope. But I remember seeing it and it was like, it was a very like patriotic time. But yeah, I loved this movie. I'm sorry to tell you guys both, but I did love this movie when I saw it. I think I was a freshman in high school. And I believe, I'm dating myself here, but I believe my family got a DVD player not long after that. And this is one of the first DVDs that the family owned. So there you go. Long history with the Patriot.
And how many times have you seen it?
27 times since.
Incredible.
Big
So
fan.
give us, you're the expert here. Give us the synopsis of this wonderful film. I guess it's needless to say, spoilers. Justin already kind of did that, but yeah. Spoiler
Yes.
alert. It's 26 years old. If you're like me and you haven't seen it, like
It's a quarter century, so I don't know if you could say something's a spoiler when it's a quarter century about a period drama, but hey, fair enough. If you've not seen The Patriot, skip through this episode.
Give about 30 seconds. It tells the story of Benjamin Martin and his family in South Carolina during the American Revolution. He is a reluctant patriot, okay? He does not want to get involved because he has some PTSD from the French and Indian War. He doesn't want to go down that dark road anymore. His son gets murdered by British officer played by Jason Isaacs. Very, very good. Always mine. I do actually love Jason Isaacs for real. What is the name? Oh, Tavington, Colonel Tavington. It spurs him to get involved in the war. Heath Ledger is his other son. Spoiler alert, Tavington kills his other son. So he's mowing down Mel Gibson's children. And I think Mel Gibson, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but was kind of like this guerrilla warfare type figure, swamp foxy guy. So he leads a ragtag band of militia against the British single-handedly, single-handedly destroying Cornwallis in the process and killing Jason Isaacs. He basically wins the Revolutionary War. Is that what happened in real life?
That's it. Thank you for coming on the pod. We're done, etc.
It's history, you guys.
this is a documentary.
Okay, now you guys get to school me on what is real.
Well, let's start with a couple of things. Number one, you were right in calling the protagonist of this the Swamp Fox. In real life, there was a real person named Francis Marion who had that moniker. This character is loosely, extremely loosely, as in there was a guy named a Swamp Fox based off of Francis Marion. So that is good. And then also Jason Isaacs based off of Bannister I can never say his name. It's like Banastre. Bannister Tarleton is the actual historical figure who, due to American propaganda, I'm using air quotes right now. We'll talk about what I mean by that. Due to American propaganda, is the murderer, villain, whoever you want to call him, throughout the Southern campaign of the American Revolutions. That is where the film, I think, is historically accurate. Anything after that is where it loses its historical accuracy, unfortunately.
But they do use people's real names like Gates and Green. I did notice.
True.
I just finished watching the Ken Burns documentary, and I was like, I know Nathaniel Green.
True. What do you know about Nathaniel Green?
He was in the war. That's
perfect. That's perfect.
I remember Gates was a hero at Saratoga, came down, and I guess they kind of touch on this in the film, blew it at Camden, completely blew it and kind of scurried away in disgrace, ? So yes. I know that part.
And that's, once again, it's why it's so hard to look at these things as completely bad, because what you just described, probably majority, I'm not going to say majority of people, but a lot of people will get that kernel of truth by watching something like this. So yes, there we go. See, look at the Patriot teaching us about the American Revolution. Jake, what do you think?
Well, I will say, just in terms of things that I did enjoy about the film, the theater of the conflict that they show. I feel like this is something that, I think what we know, and I'll speak kind of as myself among the general public here, since I'm not an 18th century guy. Much of what the general public knows about the American Civil War, God, see, I'm 19th century. The first American Civil War.
Well, I was going to say, it's not wrong. Yes. Yeah. You could say that this is the first American Civil War. Continue.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which we will get into in just a little bit. So yeah, what myself and I feel like the general public know about the American Revolution is what's going on in Virginia and Pennsylvania and New Jersey and New York, Massachusetts, New England. We that's where much of the story is centered. And thinking about it, especially, and this could be the regional bias as well. I mean, maybe the story is different in the South, but growing up in Pennsylvania myself, very much the story was about what Washington was doing and what was going on in the mid-Atlantic and New England. So the fact that this is centered on the South, on South Carolina, I think is helpful to remind the general public that there is a whole other theater of the conflict that is quite brutal. Not as brutal as what we're treated to, if you want to call it that, in the film. But just the fact that you get, scenes in Charlestown, aka Charleston, and what's going on there. I think I found that very interesting. I vaguely knew that, not having seen the film before, that the film was set in the South. But actually, what I really did enjoy, and I think it's before I would say things go off the rails with the film when it becomes an action film, a la Roland Emmerich directing, which you know what you're going to get. Lots of destruction and flames and burning and action sequences. I love that some of those first scenes where you see the debates about the revolution. I think that's actually, I thought those parts where you see the reluctant patriot, but someone who is, opposed to war, opposed to it based on their previous experience in armed conflict. I thought those scenes were particularly interesting, and I really, really appreciated them. And then lots of other things happen.
Well, even in those scenes, though, we kind of need to put it in context, because a lot of the reason why they're having those debates throughout the country, not just in the southern, what we'll call the Southern Theater, is because the British government's in extreme amount of debt. And why are they in an extreme amount of debt? Well, they are in an extreme amount of debt because of the flashbacks that I can't even remember what the Mel Gibson's character's name is. It's
Benjamin Martin.
Benjamin Martin. I'm sorry.
Don't worry, I'll be here to fact check.
There we go. The reason you see Benjamin Martin flashback to the French and Indian War, the French and Indian War is the war that got the British government in extreme amounts of debt. The fighting throughout the world, which we could talk all about how this war starts because of George Washington, but that's a whole separate podcast. British will fight the French throughout the entire world. Some will say the First World War is the French and Indian War, what's known as the 7 Years' War. That is the war throughout the entire globe. French and Indian War here in the United States, or what we would call it in the United States. Because they fought and won that war, majority of the fighting happens, not majority, but some of the fighting will happen in North America. The British government pays and wins that fight in North America, is completely broke, and then afterwards is going to say, all right, hey, how are we going to get some money back? Let's throw like a tax towards the colonists. It's not a lot. It's just like 1 or 2 taxes. Let's tax them for like any sort of paper goods, which is the Stamp Act, the Tea Act as well is one of the different, I don't know the official name for it, but the one that, Boston Tea Party, all that kind of stuff. Those are the 2 that they're like, hey, let's try this. The colonists freak out and then leads us on the road to revolution. And it's just funny looking back on it now because, like, in a way, the British government is justified. Like, they spent so much money protecting the colonists during the French and Indian War here in North America. And they're like, hey, we protected you. Can you just send us like a tax every now and then? And it's like, nope, no, we're not. We're just going to start a revolution because of it. So
they also didn't we also want to start it because we wanted to move out further west? And they were like, after the war, they were like, nope. And like George Washington and all these rich guys were like, I need more land. They're looking westward. And they were
so they basically draw the line right on the Appalachian Mountains and say, we will not expand farther. Now, I often will say this too. If the British government retains control, I have a hard time believing that they're going to say, no, we're stopping at the Appalachians, right? Like they say that now. We don't get to see it play out, but I have a hard time believing that they would also be like, no, we're going to respect this line that we draw on top of the mountains here in what is now West Virginia. But yes, you're right. So the colonists are looking, hey, we were promised land. We were promised, this new start. The coastline is populated by a bunch of these big, huge plantations full of slaves. We need to go farther west for us to start settling and making a difference and making our own kind of little world. So you kind of see that here. Although I think in the movie they talk about how the British, like I also remember Jason Isaacs just saying, like, tell me about Ohio. Like he's going to go like rule Ohio, right? Like the British are the ones that are going to go to Ohio and settle it.
Really make them villainous.
Exactly. Yeah. You know what? Maybe. Yeah. Somebody who lived beside Ohio for my entire life. Maybe Jason Isaacs can figure out Ohio. But anyway, that's the soapbox.
So they debate, and Benjamin Martin says, I'm a father. I don't have the luxury of principles. And he will not enter the war. And then the war comes right to his front door. How accurate is that? That the British would come in and shoot your kid if you were
Well,
American?
let's
I
take
mean,
a
that
let's
happens.
before we talk about the British coming to shoot kids, which actually happens in this movie. Let's talk about kind of why the British are in the South in the first place, right? So like this is not the beginning of the war. This isn't Bunker Hill. This isn't the siege of New York. This isn't anything up that happens in 1776, 1777. It wasn't until the failures of the British Army up north. You mentioned Saratoga before, not just that battle, but other ones. The failure of destroying Washington's army, the British government kind of looked at it and said, well, the war, I mean, we haven't lost, but we haven't won. It's super expensive to maintain this war. We're already in a bunch of debt. And then the other thing you don't see is that for any time the British Army will, and actually, Molly, you got me on it. The British Army is not just people from Britain. There are also a lot of loyalists that make up the British Army. I think in the movie, it's like just one person is supposed to be that. As Jake said, this is the true first civil war in the United States. It's very brutal. It's neighbor versus neighbor. It's everything you associate with like the border states during the American Civil War, only throughout the entire country. You have a lot of people who are tied up in, there's no regional differences here. It is literally throughout the entire country. It is neighbor versus neighbor on what you believe. And also, whatever way the wind is turning that day. Some days when the British Army is closer, the Loyalists have the control. When the British Army leaves and the rebel army comes, then the rebels have control, right? So you kind of are very, very, you got to be very smart about who you choose your loyalties with and how, I guess, bombastic you are, because as soon as those armies leave, any sort of control are going to leave that area too. We'll talk about why the British Army, and throughout the rest of the podcast, when we say British Army, just remember, this is not just people from England. This is both Americans and British people that make up the British Army. They are there because the war went so bad in the North. They thought the most, I guess, profitable colonies in North America are the southern colonies. You think South Carolina, Georgia is not nearly as big as it is as we think like during the Civil War. Georgia actually is kind of small when you compare it to South Carolina because they didn't really get far west at that point. But a lot of the most valuable property in the entire North America colonies are those plantations along the coast. So the British is thinking, all right, well, it's not working out for us in the North. Let's go down south. We are told that it's more loyalists down there. A lot of the British high command is told, you're going to come and you're going to find a bunch of loyalists throughout South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Georgia, all of those places. Except when they land, the loyalists were kind of chased out by then because the British Army was not down there. So that's kind of this strategy of moving down south is how we even get to South Carolina, is the British Army decides, all right, hey, it's not going well for us up in New England. Let's cut off New England. Let's start with the South. Let's control the more prosperous regions of North America and either work our way up till we can have a negotiated settlement where we still control this part of the country. So as for why they're there, that is kind of how this movie fits in, or how this story would fit in, is this is the British Army coming down south and deciding we are going to fight this southern campaign to control this part of the country. So, like I said, Molly, you got me going.
You, as Tim Miller says, let him cook.
Let him cook.
But yeah.
Let him cook.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's fascinating though, because like you said, Jake, you think of the American Revolution, you think of Boston, you think of Lexington, but I mean, good chunk, almost half of the war, a lot of the conflict is occurring. Not that there's not conflict at the beginning of the war, but the British will kind of shift south in 1778, and then throughout until the surrender at Yorktown, there is really no major action. I use major in quotes. I guess Monmouth maybe, but there's no major action. All right, my timeline of the American Revolution is weird. Anyway, all the fighting kind of shifts south, right? You have Cowpens, you have Kings Mountain, you have Yorktown, you have Guilford County Courthouse, you have all these places. These are all battlefields that are kind of populated throughout North and South Carolina. And then also the Siege of Savannah, which is kind of the start of that Southern campaign, which occurs in 1778. So
I have a thought, something that I was surprised was not included in the film, considering it is set in Charleston, in South Carolina. And that is like what I think of as one of the most pivotal myth-making stories of South Carolina's history, which is the initial repulse of British forces earlier in the conflict when they initially tried to make inroads into Charleston and are turned back at the mouth of Charleston Harbor, and leads to, giving them their state nickname, the Palmetto State, being for the trees that they have stacked up on the fort of what will become what's on Sullivan's Island, what will later become, and I'll bring it back to the Civil War, of course, Fort Moultrie, that is going to be used to bombard Fort Sumter during the American Civil War. But I just thought it was so interesting. It's like, that's always what I thought of when I thought of South Carolina in the American Revolution, was this famous moment where the British are turned back, their fleet is turned away. I was just wondering what your thoughts on that were. What your thoughts were, Justin?
Well, it's interesting you say that too, because they are turned away. It was kind of a haphazard assault by the British. Like, they don't really, they kind of get close, and I think they misread the tides, if I remember. I'm not an expert on the Battle of Fort Sullivan, but they kind of either misread the tides or kind of get stuck and get repulsed that way. But what they don't tell you is, I think that's a lot of hey, let's focus on our victories and not our defeats. The siege of Savannah goes awful for the Americans. The way they lose Savannah is laughable. And that's the first kind of port that will fall. And then from that, the British use that as a staging ground to go up and then actually take over the city of Charleston, kind of throughout a different way throughout the war too. So it's that, yes, they defend them at the beginning, but then they eventually lose that port, which is pretty vital. I mean, we think about sailing back then, you think about how far these ships have to come. Also, the damage that is being done to these ships as they come across they come across the Atlantic. So places like Bermuda and places like Charleston are very important, because they're places where Royal Navy ships can come, be refitted, and then continue to go about what they do. Yeah, it's very interesting. And I don't know. That's a good point, Jake. I guess they could have really, rallied around the flag there at the beginning, but yeah, I'm not even sure if Marion was at the Fort Sullivan.
One of the other things that stuck out to me upon this latest rewatch, after watching Ken Burns, okay, so this is with some knowledge now, is the portrayal of the slave fighting in his master's
Oh my gosh, yeah.
stead, and then willingly fighting with the side of the Patriots, where in reality, I didn't realize this. The British came down, and I forget, you guys are going to give me the name of the guy who did this big thing, and he said, come fight with us, the British, we'll give you your freedom. And I forget what the percentage was, but like 70% when it comes down to it, like fought with the British versus former slaves fought with the British, because they were like, I'm going to get a chance to earn my freedom with the British, not with the Americans. And that is not what I was taught in school. They like leave that detail out.
Well, Molly, it's funny you bring it up, because one of the first things that happened, the reason why the British are chased out, the Loyalists are chased out of Virginia, is the governor of Virginia, Lord Dunmore.
That's him.
Yes. Yeah. He issues a proclamation in 1775, so even before the Declaration of Independence is signed, saying, hey, any slave who runs and joins, any slave that is a subject of a rebellious type of slaveholder, if you come and join the British Army, you will get your freedom. And that pissed the hell out off of a bunch of Virginians, North and South Carolinians, specifically the aristocrats, the ones who own a bunch of land, own a bunch of slaves. So that's part of the reason why they're chased out of the South, is because they issue those calls very early on in the war. And all of the Southerners are like, the scariest thing that I can think of is a slave with a militarily trained African American, because they're going to come back and they're going to kill us all. That is not the case. But anyway, that's what they believe. So that's why you have this vacating of a lot of British loyalists in the South before the war, or 1775, 76, 77, is because, yes, that was very early on a British strategy. It wasn't due to the way the war was going. It was at the beginning, hey, let's try to undermine the American cause by throwing this in there.
Yeah. And of course they have to like put in the archetypes and the characters in this movie to kind of teach, quote unquote, you something about the war, like the reluctant dad who is just fighting to protect his family, and, the newly freed slave who is super happy to be fighting alongside people that were he was just enslaved by.
Yeah, I think the craziest thing, and also I looked at Francis Marion was at the siege of Charleston, so they very could have included, or sorry, the Fort Sullivan, the Battle of
Yeah.
Fort Sullivan.
I'd say as was the inspiration for our evil character was also he is among the British fleet that is trying to get into Charleston Harbor in 1776.
Yeah,
Carlton.
yeah, and I hate to tell you this, Molly, but the real Francis Marion, when Jason Isaacs comes up and says, "Hey, you slaves, you can be part of the British," and they're like, "We're not slaves, we're freedmen."
Right.
It's like, okay, hold on, let's talk about this. The real Francis Marion
No.
was a slaveholder, did not employ freemen, did not pay his work. No, he was a slaveholder. That is an absurd thing for the movie, and I completely forgot the movie did that, but it is absolutely absurd that is how they address that.
As growing up and seeing that as a little high schooler, I was like, of course he employed freed men. He was a good dude. Like, and now watching it when they say that exact line, you're just like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, I'd say that, and I'll get to this. I want to talk about this later on, kind of what the film says about the time period in which it's made. But I will say, just overall, this film does not do nuance. It just
Right.
it doesn't do nuance. So
Good
like,
and bad.
Yep. So to be able to like explain like the complexity of slavery in the American South during the 1770s and 1780s is just like it's over their heads. They're just incapable.
Let's just say that they're freemen. We won't address it. Wash our hands. Let's continue killing some redcoats.
Yep. Let's just have this entire film set in a community that is its entire economy is based in the enslavement of human beings, and just casually toss it away and barely address it, except in that, you know, those who are enslaved are going to fight for their freedom with the Americans,
Not the British.
not the British. So, yeah, I'll just say the film doesn't do nuance, which shouldn't be a surprise.
Jake, what do you mean the film doesn't do nuance when Mel Gibson's character at the end literally runs with the flag, the American flag, and like hits people in the face with it as
He
he
stabs Tarleton. Like
stabs the horse that
stabs the horse. Sorry.
Sorry. Which hurt me because animals. But yeah, as I was rewatching that ending scene, I was like, oh, he's using the flag to beat up the British. They're nailing it on the head.
Yeah, it was a lot. And that's actually what sent me back to looking at when the film was made, because I was just like, oh, that, you know, I knew it was in this like early 2000s time period, and I'll be honest, I was like, oh, is this a post 9/11 film? So I was a little surprised to be like, oh, no, it's yeah, we're really full on rah America hate the British in the summer of 2000. So it was a little bit of a surprise for me.
And it was super, I mean, I don't know if it's because I'm older now, but I was like, man, this film is violent. Like it was pretty violent. And I was like, you mentioned the time frame that when it was made. And yeah, it was a simpler time, you guys. It was pre 9/11 and it was pre Iraq. You know, it was all of that stuff. And it really was like wholesome America's good, British bad. And that was as much as we knew. And I'm talking about we being a 14-year-old.
And it's not like I made the joke as I kind of was like getting ready for this. It's almost like they want to today I think this movie's made the exact same with the current view of like how we view our like quote unquote allies, right? It's like it would not surprise me if today this movie's like, you know what, let's make a film that the British are like completely evil because, you know, we don't really like them anymore because they're in the way of a lot of things and, you know, power and all of that. So let's make a film that they are batshit evil, and then just that'll what we use to tell Americans about it. It's like it's absurd. It's like crazy.
So that brings up something I was thinking about too in this context, is just like, because this is a huge box office success, you know, It's seen by lots of people. It's seen by Molly 26 times. I wonder just how much of the film colors perceptions of the French, which are going to, like, how much of that is a reflection of America's view of France in 2000 versus like how much of it is helping to push that in the direction of what's going to happen just 3 years later, 2 or 3 years later, in when the French are among the staunchest opponents of America's invasion of Iraq. That's something that was going through my mind. So very much thinking of it in contemporary 21st century terms.
Totally agreed on the French. I was thinking the exact same thing, and I was like, is this when we started not liking the French, and then the whole freedom fries thing and all of that stuff? I was like, was it before 9/11 that we were not fans? Did we always kind of make fun of them in this story? And watching Ken Burns, and I know this now, not just with Ken Burns, not to drop Ken Burns all the time, but I'm like, oh, the French won the war for us. I mean, for real.
They won the war. They won the war, went bankrupt. The guy who bankrolled the war has his head chopped off by his own people because of how much debt they go into because of funding the American war effort. So yes.
Why do we make fun of them? So, I mean, not we. Why does
there is an entire podcast about the first months of World War II we could talk about, because for 300 years, the French army was the most professional and the best army in the world. Like, in the world, way better than the Brits. The Brits had ships, but I could make the argument like the French army through the 1700s, so I guess they lose there, but the 1700s, 1800s, and even World War I, by far way better than us. But if you ask anybody today, you hear, oh, they're just they just run away. They just surrender. That's all they do. And it's like, yeah, that was literally 2 weeks to start World War II, changed an entire viewpoint of what we think, what we as Americans think about who they are as a people and what type of military they have.
So interesting. Okay, we got to dig deep on that another one. I didn't know that. Okay, because I had the exact same thought when I was watching it. I was like, oh, we're downplaying the French again.
No, it is not until they come over that they actually, and they have a lot of people at Yorktown that help us. And Yorktown's not even really the end of the war. There's a whole lot about the Revolution that is very simplified for American school children to say, yep, Washington won at Yorktown, war over. It's like, no, it was for a couple more years. Actually, the war was still quote unquote going on. The Treaty of Paris isn't signed, I think, until 2 to 3 years after Yorktown. So yeah, anyway.
So
big soapbox.
Going to the violence piece of this. So it is a very violent film, and so much so, and so many atrocities committed in the course of 2.5 hours of this film that I was like, oh my gosh, it's like, is the American Revolution, like, were there this many war crimes committed? And it sent me doing, down a rabbit hole about this, and just like, no, there weren't this many war crimes being committed. There were quite a number of atrocities. Oftentimes they are when Americans or British come into contact with Native American communities of different persuasions, and when Native American communities and their military forces come into contact with settlers, especially on the western frontier, that's when things get pretty ugly and pretty nasty, and there are atrocities, but even not quite like this.
Well, even one of the most famous starts of the American Revolution is the Boston Tea Party. They tar and feather a tax collector. Does anybody realize what tar and feathering means? You pour molten tar on this person's body, throw a bag of feathers on top of them, and then parade them around the streets of Boston on a log. I think John Adams, the HBO series John Adams, has a really good depiction of that. And that is awful. It is absolutely awful. The type of things that these mobs of these, and I'm going to probably come across as anti-American, but these mobs of patriots, they do awful things. But you read, and also the British do some awful things too. I'm not wiping my hands of either side here. Both sides are bad, but if you watch this film, you'd think, nah, just one side, just the Brits. That's all.
And I would say too, and to I say some of the war crimes committed here. That's not to say, as you mentioned, there's this is a very violent time period. Violence is everywhere in the colonies at this point. I will say too, the British do commit what we would consider war crimes today, particularly when it comes to American prisoners of war, which really leads to kind of the American ethos of how we treat prisoners of war. But that's one area that it definitely, we don't really see it in the film other than them executing prisoners, which I think is definitely going way too far. They're much more likely to starve them, put them on ships, and let them all die of disease rather than outright executing them. But yeah, that was just one area that, again, I was watching this film and very much seeing the time period in which it was made, which I think makes those atrocities that we see make a lot more sense. So let's take, for example, like some of the execution of wounded soldiers, American soldiers, and then also the infamous church scene, the burning down of the church. That has much more to do with events that take place in the 1990s, or you could even say going back to the Second World War as well, of some of the crimes of the Nazis. But I think also it's really colored by what you see in the Balkans, Serbia, Bosnia. Those are the events that are shaping this film, and the depictions of atrocities. I think that's the kind of violence, because that's what's on Americans' TV screens. It's what's on the world's TV screens in the 1990s, when you have events like Srebrenica, where thousands of Muslim men are executed by forces of whether the Serbian army or Serb Bosnians. That's the violence that I think really comes through in this film. That is much more like, and the conflict itself in South Carolina lends itself to that kind of story, because it is this kind of, there is this guerrilla conflict element to it, as well as these general kind of more like field armies. And that is very similar to the situation that was going on in a very confusing Balkans in the 1990s. So I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if that's what's in their mind, but it's definitely the way that I was seeing this. It's like, oh, this is what informs the making of that film.
That's so interesting. I was thinking of similar but so different. I was thinking of the other films that were being made at that time and in the 90s. So Braveheart. I mean, again, Mel Gibson, like that type of violence is very similar to what's in Braveheart, which you're going to have to watch now. And thinking of Gladiator, I think was made around the same time. Like all of these really big, epic, super violent movies. It's funny you brought up, not funny that you brought up Nazis, but the church burning scene, I was like, oh, this is Schindler's List. Like all of these movies that were made throughout the 90s, this is such an end of the 90s movie. The best decade, let's be real.
We didn't know how good we had it.
We did not know how good we had it, guys. And that's why I was thinking, yes, this was a simpler time. Americans good, whoever fights Americans bad, and that's it. And we're going to depict them as Nazis. We're going to make it super violent, and people are going to love it. And go get some popcorn, y'all.
I really think the only reason people even love this film is because Jason Isaacs like acts his ass off. Like he carries this film.
So good. He's so evil. And when you mentioned the war atrocities, I was like, oh, this guy was, when I was watching the actual American Revolution documentary, it was like Sullivan, I think was his name, was this American who just like went out and like massacred the native population. It was our side that did a lot of really gnarly stuff.
And
so,
it's not even our side too. Like you have this loyalists who will do it to Tories will do it to loyalists, or sorry, Patriots which will do it to Tories to loyal. I keep saying the same thing, but anyway, neighbor v. neighbor violence is also very, very gruesome.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you guys about the guerrilla, because it is kind of like a turning point of like, oh, we're not going to fight. You know, I'm Benjamin Martin. Let me teach you about guerrilla warfare.
So this is one of probably the biggest misconceptions of the American Revolution. And I hate it that for a lot of people, they think we won the war because we hid behind trees, and the British are dumb because they didn't hide behind trees. And no. Yes, there is guerrilla tactics. The term guerrilla actually comes from the French experience in Spain during Napoleon's time. So when you hear the term guerrilla, that's actually coming from that time period. So this predates guerrilla tactics. This is just a bunch of Americans that are fighting. I think they use the term the native way, as in behind the trees, behind different things, and that. It is not until the American army learns to fight with help from the French, with training from the French, like the British and like the French, that they actually win the war. The American regular army does not stand a toe to the Brits for a lot of the war, but they get better. And as they get better, and as they finally win it, quote unquote win it, like I said, at Yorktown, it's only because we learned how to fight like them, which is a proper way. How you fight that style of army is you have them in control, you have them fight, you have them line up and face one direction. And it takes a very disciplined army to get there. And it wasn't until the Americans learned how to do it that they actually had prolonged success. But that's not cool. That's not American. That's not sexy. No, we want to talk about militia, hiding behind trees, and guerrilla tactics and all this type of stuff, which, yes, was annoying. Yes, occurred. Yes, was a factor in the end of the war. But it was not because we did it that won the war at all. If anything, the guerrilla, I mean, you could say that this type of fighting does take its toll because for every single British soldier that is killed by a guerrilla or that is killed by these type of attacks, it takes roughly 6 months to replace them because you have to train them in Britain, get them on a boat, sail them across the ocean, which takes months, not 5 hours like you can jump on a flight today. It takes a while. So this was a drain on the British Army, but it is in no means the reason why Americans were successful or why Americans won the Revolutionary War. They won the Revolutionary War, at least on the battlefield, because they learned how to fight like the British Army.
Justin, I don't know what history training you have, but my 7th grade essay about guerrilla warfare in the American Revolution says otherwise, okay?
Oh my gosh.
Hey, you know what? Kudos. It is a losing battle. It is a losing fight to say that. And you know what? At some point you just throw in the towel. Yes, the Swamp Fox won the war. Yeah, that's what it was.
I think we need to see that. We need to see that 7th grade essay. So Molly, unearth that.
I didn't tell you guys this, but I also won an award from the Daughters of the American Revolution, I believe in 8th grade, for an essay on Fort Sumter. So when we get there, I'm going to cook, okay?
Incredible. We need a reading. If you still have that essay, we need a reading.
Yeah,
Bring it back.
But I was going to ask you about, it was not only French, but I think there was some German guy that came and taught us how to fight too, right?
Oh.
Yes. Von Steuben.
Who was kind of a fraud, I believe, no? Or
no. So he comes in with basically a drill and manual book, and he will set aside and teach the Continental Army at Valley Forge, proper drill manual, how to take care of himself, how to treat their equipment, and that type of stuff. He does have a big impact on the war because he teaches them how to fight like every other army in the world, like the British, like the French, like the German. Well, at that time it was not Germany, like the Germanic states, I should say. So yeah, that's it. It bothers me to no end every time I watch this movie because it's always oh, look how stupid they are. They just stand in the road, and me and my 2 sons, who are 6 years old, are just going to mow down 17 or 18 of them. And yeah, that's what we do. We're Americans. I want to kill me some aim small, miss small. I want to kill me some redcoats. I love this movie.
When Justin gets mad about it.
It's funny because it is stuff that I had to learn because I watched this movie and was that's how it was. We're just smarter than them because we decided to hide behind a tree. It's no. But yeah, anyway. So I don't even know where to go from that. That was my I just got all of it out. We could talk about how Tarleton isn't killed by Marion in real life. So there's that.
Doesn't he go back and become a member of Parliament?
He does. He lives until 1833.
Well, I'm mad about that because that's the best part of the dang movie when he's my sons were better men. And then that was suspenseful. Not going to lie. When I was watching that in the movie theater, I really thought that Mel Gibson was a goner.
So thinking about endings of this movie,
yeah,
I want to share some criticism.
We haven't criticized it already?
I want to share. This movie is an hour too long.
That's true.
It has I'm thinking your traditional movie structure, your story structure. It's we got some rising action over and over and over again. And it's just can we just, why do we have to go on for this long?
Yeah.
It's funny you say that because that's the exact same thing the Continental Congress said in real life. It's why why is this going on so long? Why don't you... King George is just why does this war continue? It shouldn't. Hence why they leave.
It does have a runtime of, like, I believe it was 2 hours and 44 minutes with like credits and everything. It is far too long. And I actually will say on this last rewatch, when Heath Ledger's character, what is Gabriel? Gabriel Martin, the bright-eyed patriot who believes in America so much.
Him and Heath Ledger and Jason Isaacs, they are the bright spots in this
Wait a
film.
minute. Can I give you one more bright spot though? I forget his name. Is it Chris Cooper? I love
Oh
him.
yeah, Chris Cooper is good. I love Chris
him.
Cooper.
Yeah. So I forgot about him. He's really
Yeah,
good.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Molly.
No, you're good. But he is killed, and there's like another 45 minutes, I want to say. Like, in my recall, Heath Ledger dies. They do the final battle. Mel Gibson's like, I can't fight. My other son is dead. And then he kills Tavington. No. It's like a good 45 minutes, hour. I believe. It is far too long. That's correct.
But we have to get in the whole, we're rebuilding America arm in arm, both enslaved freedmen and, white settlers. And there's not anything that going on in the South that will mess up this, serendipity and this tranquility at all. Because we addressed it in the Constitution. We handled the slavery problem right then and there. We didn't punt the ball at all.
All men are created equal, as Gabriel says in the movie.
That's right.
Jake, did you like anything other than the first debate they had, or was that the bright spot?
Yeah, I really do. I think Heath Ledger is great throughout this film. I really do. He's so handsome. How can you not like him? He's such a good actor. I think his role is really well portrayed. I think he's done a disservice by the ham-fisted writing in this film, but this is what you get in a summer blockbuster. Yeah, I don't know. These just aren't my kind of films. I will admit. It's not the only film of this variety that I am not particularly fond of. I would much rather take something that takes a little bit more of I don't know. I like nuance. I like nuance.
View. Yeah.
Yeah, I like something with complexity, something that's like makes you think. This movie is not a thinking movie. This is popcorn, and just drenched in blood. That's what this film is. When they have like the popcorn where you like get your own butter, like you hit that red button and it's just like blood all over the popcorn.
You guys,
red coat blood.
What does that say about my sensibilities? I'll be the pedestrian one on this podcast. Okay, I'll take the mantle, and I'm going to tell you that on the list of things that I want to cover is going to be Last of the Mohicans with the glorious Daniel Day-Lewis. And if we're talking about some really ham-fisted writing, I believe Michael Bay's Pearl Harbor. Is it Michael Bay with Ben Affleck?
I am here for that movie review. I am here for that conversation.
I don't know if I could. I watched that movie once, and that was I don't even think I got through all of it.
You guys, that movie is so good. I love it.
So I do enjoy that film.
That's surprising. That's the biggest shock of the year.
It's another one that's way too long. But it is.
Parts.
Yeah, I do enjoy it.
When it came out, another DVD that the Kilty family owned. It was it had 2 DVDs, you guys. Sit down, children. Let me tell you about a time when the movie was so long. There were 2 DVDs.
Well, Molly, I like your consistency here. I think listeners are probably thinking like, who the heck am I? And like, there's no pattern or rhyme or reason behind these things. Where it's just like, yeah, I hate the Patriot, but you know what movie I love? Pearl Harbor. Yeah. Well, I don't want to say like, Roland Emmerich makes some good movies as well. I mean, he's Independence Day, right? So it's like,
well, one of the best historically accurate movies that I think is overlooked during this time is Master and Commander. Have you guys watched Master and Commander?
It's been a long time.
It
It's
is
very
such a good, historically accurate, like, hit it on the head accurate movie that was just overshadowed because I think it came out the same year that The Lord of the Rings came out. So it like was completely overshadowed by The Lord of the Rings. But Master and Commander, to me, in this time period that we're talking about, like the late 90s, early 2000s, is the best, like, history, like, accurate movie that I can think of at the moment. I mean, like, I implore everybody, please watch that movie because it is so good.
Is that Russell Crowe? Am I
It
remembering
is,
that?
yeah, it is Russell Crowe, yes. And, like, I think it is a time period in movies that we didn't take advantage of, or we didn't realize how good we had it. Zero CGI, right? Like,
Right.
even I was going to say, if you want to say something nice about the Patriot, at least the battle scenes, they have, like, it's not just a bunch of CGI people running around. Like, it's a full-on shot of everybody kind of doing it, right? So, like, this time period, because CGI wasn't prevalent, I don't think that we're going to make a movie like this anymore. I don't think we're going to make a movie like Master and Commander anymore. It's just going to be on a sound stage. It's going to be CGI'd out the wazoo, and you're going to lose that little bit of like, authenticity.
I was gonna say cinematography great in this movie. And Jake, you noted the score, the music,
Yep.
it is fantastic.
Yeah, yep. You got your John Williams in here. So
Literally
yeah.
cannot get better than that.
He can't
And
miss.
Lord of the Rings, I'm seeing the Fellowship of the Ring in theaters on Friday to celebrate the 25th anniversary. So
Well, just know that it overshadowed a fantastic film in Master and Commander, which, you know what? Take the rings to Mordor. It's fine. Just use the Eagles. I don't know why they didn't do it. Here we are.
get out.
We're not a Lord of the Rings podcast, so
Boo, we could be.
we could talk about Tolkien's experience in World War One.
You know what that podcast would have in common with this podcast?
Jake's never seen it.
You are correct.
Jake,
Oh, okay.
I am appalled.
Yeah, and this is
You
where all
live
the
under a
listeners
rock?
are like, I hate you, and I'm unsubscribe.
How? Okay. We'll talk about this more off air on how, like, we just need to run down a list. It's not gonna be interesting to the public. Maybe it will be interesting to the public. We just go down movie by movie and be like, Jake, have you seen this? Have you not? But yeah, that's fascinating. Well,
Or we can have a art that was created post World War One and the incredible group of writers that was formed prior to World War One, but then fought through World War One and then created great art. We could talk about that. And then you'd have to watch it.
yes.
And this is something I am working to correct. Recently, I've watched the first half of the first movie, so I'm getting there. It's just a little slow, 25 plus years slow, but
Yeah.
we're getting there. I know
Well-
I know it's historical value, and I understand too. It is of its time, not necessarily the film, but, like, the origin story here is very much tied into the First World War, and that interests me very much. But I have not seen it, I will admit, nor read.
Well, I think, to come back to the Patriot, we'll come back to the Patriot here and
Okay,
wrap it
bring us-
up
bring us-
with any
bring us
final thoughts. I have final thoughts from Jason Isaacs. He did an interview with Entertainment Weekly that I want to read his quotes that he talks about the Patriot. I think it's very important. Before I do that, Jake, how would you sum up your viewing experience? What did this teach you about the American Revolution? Are you better off for watching it?
No. And no. Didn't teach me anything about the American Revolution, nor particularly, it wasn't one that, got me interested to want to know more about the time period. I just kept seeing the film as of its time. I did not see it as being about anything other than a 1990s action movie set in the 1770s and 1780s. I was blinded by that and didn't see much else. So, yeah. I mean, I guess I'm glad I've seen it. I can say that I've seen it, and I can say that I didn't really care for it that much.
Wait, follow-up question. What about the friends you made along the way? Meaning? Justin.
Yeah. I'm so glad to be able to discuss this and all of the other movies I haven't seen. along with you guys and all of the listeners out there who, as mentioned before, probably now hate me.
No. Okay, Justin, read the article. What is this article?
So it's from Entertainment Weekly. They interviewed Jason Isaacs in August of this year, August of 2025.
What?
I think it was connected to Harry Potter in some way. I mean,
White Lotus, maybe?
maybe White Lotus. It was.
Oh.
They talked about Lucius Malfoy, and they showed him in there.
Oh.
Well, this is his exact quote. I must tell people that Harry Potter is slightly more historically accurate than the Patriot. And any history teacher who's showing it to their kids, they better tell them how much bullshit it is. It is made up. That is Jason Isaacs' quote on the Patriot is Harry Potter is more historically accurate than the Patriot.
That is, could not have summed it up any better.
That's so good.
Yeah. He does go on to say it's an amazing movie, but no one should be thinking it's history.
Yeah, I agree. I would say my recommendation, watch it and then watch the Ken Burns documentary.
See, the problem though, Molly, is that no one, this is like, I use the Voithofer family index of what do we know, we as the family, about certain aspects of history. And Patriot, we grew up watching, like I remember watching it with my, if you were to poll the Voithofer family, most of their knowledge would probably come from the Patriot, which is an issue, right? Like I struggle with this on how bad this is and how bad historically accurate it is, great cinematography, whatever, and how it kind of sets you back on what that tells you going into America 250, right? Like if we want to tie this into this year, my biggest fear is that I don't know if people are going to watch this movie again. I don't think it, I don't know, maybe. You'll probably see it like on 4th of July on like AMC or TNT or TBS or somewhere, right? Like they'll just throw it on for 24 hours at the Patriot. Yeah. It's like a cruel and unusual punishment.
I'm pained.
But thinking that this, like, I just, my biggest fear is that people will stop there and they won't watch the Ken Burns documentary. They won't go visit places. Maybe they will visit places. Maybe that, down in South Carolina, I'm not a Park Service person, but those places, maybe there's interest there and people have come in and say, I am only here because I have watched The Patriot. And if that's the case, then okay, I'd feel better about it because at least they were inspired to go somewhere. That's how I feel about Gettysburg. If the movie Gettysburg gets you to go to Gettysburg, then I think, and Jake's giving a bunch of thumb downs, I think that that's successful because at least I know the visitor center, if they walk through the visitor center, they're going to get the actual no whole bar, like real story. But it's I don't know. Unfortunately, you run into that with things like this.
What if I told you that young Molly watching it in high school, it sparked something in her that kept going and made her a history lover today? What would you say about that, Mr. Voithofer?
Then I would say that Jason Isaacs is wrong. No, I'm just kidding. I would say that it's successful. Then I would say that makes me happy that I know at least one person who has watched The Patriot and then from that got a spur on to go and study more and go look into this time period. Because it is a fascinating time period.
Love it.
That is not done justice, I think, with how Rally Around the Flag, Go America, we talk about the American Revolution. If we really peel it back, it is fascinating on how this country was formed and all the different problems that it had and how it persevered through those problems, overcame those problems, eventually got it right. Well, you could say on the path to always continually get it right. So yeah, I would say that. I hope anybody listening to this, if you want to watch Patriot again, watch Patriot again, but also use this year to go out and see a Revolutionary War site that you haven't been to before and learn more about that time period because it is very fascinating and it also you kind of see today and some of the things that go on with it.
Hear, hear.
Amen.
But yes, I at least 2 times a day say aim small, miss small.
See? Papa, I'll say anything.
I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I killed them.
Okay, Jake, we did it.
We did it. We did it. All right. Well, thank you all so much for listening to us talk about the Patriot. Hope you enjoyed this episode. We will create an email eventually where you can tell us how you feel about these podcast episodes and tell us why our takes are wrong.
And let's we can advertise if you want to ask Jake if he's seen a movie, please send us an email and we will ask it on the podcast.
You're just delaying the creation of said email longer and longer. But we hope you enjoyed the episode. This is one area we want to do more of. We talked about that a little bit with some other films that we want to do this kind of treatment on, talk about the film, what it means to us, how the film addresses history that it shows, what it says about the time period that it's set in, and also what it says about the time period it was made in. And just looking at those ways that, as Molly said, ways that we as the general public are introduced to history, whether it's as a kid or, if you watch these movies as a kid or watch them as adults and it gets you interested and gets you to go out and read a book or watch a documentary or go out and visit a historic site. We want to look at all of those different elements with these films. And so we'll be doing more of these episodes in the future. If you are enjoying the podcast, give us a rating and a review. We don't have that many of them, so if you are enjoying the podcast, we'd love to know, and it helps more people to find the podcast as well. We love bringing these to you. We love having these conversations. To be honest, we would probably be having these conversations without recording them, but this does give us a good opportunity to get together every week and talk about history. So we're looking forward to doing it more in the future. And thank you all so much for tuning in. And Molly and Justin, thank you guys for sharing this film with me.
Thanks for teaching me about history, guys. Love ya.
All right. We'll see you all again soon.
Bye.